Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adanna Combie, and we begin conversations this morning in studio. We speak with Mr. Max James, a former assemblyman, and of course, we're speaking about the Tobago House of Assembly budget that was presented in the House on Monday. Good morning and welcome.
Hi, Adanna. Good morning. It's
Right.
always a pleasure speaking to you.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that, and a pleasure
Yes,
speaking with you as well.
thank you very
And so we're
much.
going to get straight on into the conversation. The budget was presented on Monday in the House by the Chief Secretary and also the Secretary of Finance, Trade and the Economy. As we know, he mentioned earlier, it is his last budget presentation as the Secretary, as a new Secretary is going to be named, he said, by the 1st of July. We're holding on for that. But our conversation this morning primarily is about the budget that was presented. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is, in your humble view and your experience, what constitutes a successful or a good budget presentation in your mind?
Well, before I answer the question, I think he would have saved the best for last. Him having said that it is likely to be his last budget. So I think the budget was well constructed. As I said, he saved the best for last. It covered all the areas. I couldn't see one single area, to be honest, in which the budget fell down. Only perhaps in terms of the legislative idea of 8%. Prospectively, that 8% issue, I don't think Tobago should be put as a percentage, because we didn't see it work with the 4.03%, that idea of the 4.03%. But coming back to that in a while, what constitutes a good budget? One could hardly say, because they've introduced a whole new concept called selectivity, strategic selectivity. We'll come back to that. But to give an idea is that you have to look at the revenue generating strategies in the budget. And the budget is something set in a particular time frame. And we don't have a development plan written by this particular administration. So what they have decided to do is to look at all those plans over the last 2 or 3 decades, and they've come up with this nice phrase, strategic selectivity. So it's in that context the budget is written. Strategic selectivity. We'll explain that term, what it means in a while again. However, so it's in that context the budget is premised, and they can only do their best with what they have, because the whole concept of strategic selectivity, it shows where the terrain in which you find yourself is not even, all right, and therefore you have to do your best with the resources that you have. Now, so you have to have money, you have to have an idea, you have to have the political will, and you have to have those strategies to embark upon, to pursue, to make those ideas successful. So your budget, you look at your priorities, and you'll always be criticized, because we're not going to agree on what should be the priorities, right? So your revenue generating schemes, you have to look at whether, when you put out these particular schemes, whether you have the resources, human resources and the financial resources to back up those ideas, right? So let's come to the whole question of strategic selectivity. It's a nice phrase, so let us break it down for the public.
Yes, it's sounding very sophisticated. That's right.
It scares you.
And so you want to understand what this means, because especially at the part that says selectivity, which means that you select, it's not a holistic thing, it's a selected part, just an aspect of.
All
So
right.
that's the part I want to get into.
All right. So we could break up the phrase or the term, right? What is strategic? Well, strategy is anything that you're going to employ, tools that you're going to prefer to reach a particular destination? What are those tools? What are those initiatives? What are those things you're going to do for you to succeed? So you say, I will employ this particular strategy. So you will see that the thing is strategic because you're employing certain kinds of measures and tools and so forth. So this is a nice phrase.
To say that you have a good plan.
So I didn't write it, but I like it. All right. It is not that it was not being done before, but it is now characterized in a particular way. And so, you have to appear at that level, which I commend. You have to appear illustrious. Of course, we know the chief secretary is an illustrious individual, right? So the words and the whole construct of the budget, it must appear and be positioned at a certain level. Selectivity seems to me to be a norm, right? So it's saying, what are those options that we can strategically embrace or put out there in a strategic form to reach a particular end? So, because as I said, the terrain in which they find themselves, the political terrain, all right, in particular the financial / socioeconomic terrain, it is not neutral. It is not even. So you have to be very selective in what you're going to do. So that term strategic selectivity characterizes or tells us and gives us an idea what the administration is going to do. It's really an employment of preferences. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, and these are our strategies for arriving at the best outcomes. So hence the term, I believe I'm correct, hence the term strategic selectivity. You like it?
No, I understand what you're saying,
Okay.
and I appreciate the breakdown and the explanation there. And I'm going back now to when I asked what constitutes a good budget. And I'm going back to a standard 3 question.
Okay. I hope I can answer it.
Because at the end of the day, now it's test time in school, as you know. So, talking with the children who are preparing for tests, one of the questions is, what is a budget? And a budget reflects the income and expenditure of a country, our nation, our space,
Well, we
our
use the
home.
word, we use the word income, we use revenue.
Revenue and expenditure, right? And so this budget, as you even mentioned, does not necessarily speak to any revenue generating schemes or anything like that that is going to bring any type of revenue. It doesn't focus very much on that. It was also mentioned by the minority leader that he said that, he was disappointed in the fact that there is no area for revenue generating. And I want to talk a little bit about that because, we're talking about all the nice words and the strategies and the things we're going to implement and what we're looking for. But at the end of the day, there must be some type of balance. I do know that the expenditure usually is greater than the revenue. And so, but there must be something that speaks to some type of generating revenue because, the conversation usually is Tobago is so dependent on central government. That's a different story, a different conversation. But I want to speak to the revenue generating aspect of the budget. Where do you stand where that is concerned?
Well, I normally don't follow too much what the minority leader says. All right. And I heard Mr. The president of the Tobago Chamber making those remarks. I don't agree too much with what he says either. I think they're wrong. I think they're wrong. If you look, so you're talking about rehabilitation of cocoa estates with the introduction of solar powered bird squawker and sound deterrent systems. When you look at throughput the budget, you've seen little areas, once they are fixed, will begin to yield some form of revenue. If you read the budget very closely, you will see that. We're looking at Spell. They want to bring in new plans, and the new plans will yield a certain amount of revenue for Tobago. So I think Spell is one of the areas in which we will see significant revenue over the next fiscal year and a half, so that I can't say that the budget is without any kind of revenue earning strategy or initiative. I think they should walk back those statements in respect of where the revenue is going to come. It's and even if you want to criticize the budget for revenue generation in terms of a specific strategy, you have to look at the fact that the administration came into office and they had to fix a lot of things. The pressure was very great.
And not to cut you across, but every single administration says the same thing. They all come in because remember, they come in with something, they come and they meet something. If you walk into a room, you're going to meet something there. And if you come in as a new manager of a company or the new CEO, the previous CEO would have had objectives. They would have had their direction in which they wanted to take whatever, the company or whatever. I know you're coming in with fresh new ideas, which is welcomed. And of course, now you have challenges of the past that you have to fix. So we understand that those challenges are standard. For any administration that comes after will say the same thing. I'm not disputing that it does not happen because I am aware that there will be challenges. There will be things that you have to fix, correct, or realign to your objectives for what you want to do and what you want to achieve in the space that you now occupy. So I'm someone, I don't really lean on that too much because we will all experience that when we walk into any office or any space where we are now in charge, where we now have to lead, right?
I don't agree with you because this is a new administration. You had the PNM in office for close to 16 years.
But what I'm saying is any administration going in will have that challenge.
Well, of course, and you have to surmount the challenges. But I'm saying in this case, I don't think you could characterize them in the way you were broadly setting it. The fact of the matter is that this administration it's a baby administration. They inherited significant issues of infrastructure, of social decay. You call it, you name it. They inherited it, and they've had tremendous pushback from the PNM, so that they have to fight state institutions that will weaponize to prevent this assembly from succeeding. We have to face it. So they are now, I believe they are now settled. Hence I said that the Chief Secretary would have now found his feet. Things are more or less being settled. And I think this particular budget sets the tone for future years. And that's the theme of this particular budget. It sets the tone in every area, in education, in agriculture, in works and infrastructure, in finance. If you look at the financing strategies that they have laid out here in terms of assisting small businesses, medium-sized businesses and so forth, using the First Citizens Bank as a clearinghouse for those loans and so forth. I think that we are well positioned now. Once those things come into fruition, I think we will see a tremendous economic development in Tobago. So that I am not worried in terms of, particularly when we make this big brouhaha about revenue generation. You have to put the systems in place. You have to educate the people. You have to have the support mechanisms in place. I think this is what this budget is this is the direction of this particular budget.
I think one of the challenges, and correct me if I'm wrong, or tell me what your view is on this, in terms of, and let me just say, I'm not disputing that they have challenges. When you now set these revenue generating schemes, as you mentioned, or strategies, as you mentioned, the framework is now being built out.
Yes.
Because it takes a while. If you put a strategy in place today, you will not see results tomorrow, right? So it takes some time for it to happen. This is one of the challenges any administration, and especially this a new administration, for the first time in office, now implementing revenue generating schemes. And you're saying within the next year or so, you would be able to see the results of same. How are you so confident that the strategies implemented or suggested here, proposed, will yield that kind of revenue within that space of time?
Well, as I said, a budget is premised in a particular time zone, all right? And it is prospective in nature or in construct. And all things are not going to work as you plan, but you want to come as near as possible to what you plan in respect of the trajectory of the budget of your plans, right? So that, yes, I agree, is not going to come together tightly to achieve all the particular ends. Hence the term again, strategic selectivity. It is meandering, it is walking the pathways, and they have laid out particular pathways which are very developmental and aspirational at the same time for Tobago. So it's a moot question, really. Anybody who asks the question, you're not going to achieve these things in a particular time frame. Remember, Tobago's economy was never had the structures and systems to generate revenue. All through the years, since when I was there, Tobago's economy, its whole framework was never set in a way to allow Tobago to generate revenue. So it's an unfair criticism from anyone to say, well, where are the revenue generating strategies? So I immediately point to you, to T.H.A, although I had my challenges with that. But well managed, it should be able to be in a position to bring a certain level of revenue, not necessarily in the thousands of millions and so forth. Then you had Spell, which we saw significant pushback from Trinidad in respect of the getting the procurement of the license, so that they could in fact sell the aggregate. And I think that the P&M administration recognized the importance of Spell, and they have not to date allowed, as far as I know, the Assembly to be independent in its procurement of the necessary licenses. As a matter of fact, I can't see, in terms of our legislation, where we have to rely on another ministry in Trinidad to give us a license to mine something that is local right here in Tobago. So we have significant legislative strictures that, of course, prevent us from proceeding in the way we should proceed for Tobago. So again, Tobago's economy, Tobago's the legislation that we have to operate within has never over the years allowed us to have the ability to earn revenue. Sorry for the brain freeze a while ago, right? So that this budget, if you look at all the pathways that have been laid out in this budget, should position Tobago, I believe, to that kind of self-determination, getting the kinds of revenues that we would need later down the road, and individually allow the business persons to develop, to have the financing for their businesses. Once those things work well, you will find that the economy of Tobago will benefit. And I think this budget has positioned us to achieve the development of Tobago as a whole, individually and collectively.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Mr. Max James, former Assemblyman, as we go through the Tobago House of Assembly budget that was presented in the House on Monday. We have to take a short break, but when we come back, we continue conversation, so stay with us. And as we go for the break, of course, we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
Morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television, and thank you for staying with us. We continue conversations this morning in studio as we speak with former Assemblyman Max James. We are talking about the Tobago House of Assembly budget proposed in the House on Monday. So we continue this morning. Mr. James, of course, we went to the break speaking about revenue generation and all the strategies that can be implemented. And also we spoke a little bit about some of the challenges that we can face as well. But of course, you mentioned that you think the budget so far is good. There is room for development projects, as you said, revenue generation and so forth. And so we want to get more into the budget. There are some people who, everybody has their opinions and they have their views. And rightfully so, we're entitled to. But I feel as if a better understanding of the way a budget works, and as you mentioned earlier, you said that the secretary, this is his best budget, right? He'll save the best for last. And I want to know what makes you say that. When you listen to this budget, when you were sitting wherever you were and you were listening to this budget, what was the thing, the defining factor that made you say, yes, I think this is the best he has done? I mean, he's only been there for a short period. But what are the key elements that you took away from this to qualify it as his best budget?
I think it's the combination of the pathways, the combination of ideas that made me feel good as a businessman, as a citizen, former secretary, as a Tobagonian. I think it was well laid out in every area. The plans in tourism, the plans in environment, the plans in housing, setting up of those, as I said here, unlocking Tobago's development potential. So when you look at housing, the new unit that they want to put in place in housing and settlements, infrastructure, getting the new plants, crushing plants. As I said, tourism, refurbishment of the airport and fort, development of Scarborough in respect of the beautification. It seems that they're going to start on that. If you can't do it on the sea, we're going to do it on land. So it's a good start. They have queried the whole question of where Tobago is positioned in respect of revenue, collection of revenue and revenue staying in Tobago, property tax. So he has looked at that. So I think to put it's basically the idea is in these budgets, the pathways for development. I think this is they're beginning to take the steps now. The foundation having been laid, they are beginning to take the steps towards the achievement of those goals, as I indicated, or has been indicated in the budget.
Now, I know, Mr. James, I know there are a few things that few points you really want to raise concerning the budget. But speaking on behalf of the population of Tobago, there are two areas that we are primarily concerned about. One, the health sector, which we saw got the biggest chunk of the proposed budget, and also attending to crime, right? Did you see the budget speaking to some sort of strategies or in relation to curbing crime? I know we've had, especially in the recent past, we've been struggling with, and things have been put in place. But have you seen where that has been dealt with or addressed in this budget?
Well, the issue of crime, from what the Chief Secretary has said, is that the Tobago Police Service or Force or Assembly Police, what he indicated is that they're ready to proceed with that particular initiative for hopefully that gets toward the reduction of crime in Tobago, because we've seen an unwanted upsurge in crime in Tobago. So he has stated that is likely to be in place very soon. I think maybe the end of this month or the end of next month, we should see the implementation of the Tobago, quote unquote, the Tobago Police, right? What is the other issue?
Health as well.
Health. Well, health has always been doing well. If you look at what the secretary, no doubt, would have contributed to this budget, the Secretary of Health conducted, or the Division of Health conducted 1,310 cataract surgeries. It's unprecedented. So I think Tobago, the division and the particular secretary has done exceedingly well. And they plan to introduce 700 surgeries in the phase 3 starting, I think it's already started, June 10, 2024. All right, so that, and then of course, the Roxborough Hospital, hopefully, which I criticized, is likely to be on 24-hour service operation, hopefully by August, September. You know, I'll give praise where praise is due, but I'll also criticize something which I believe is not good or not beneficial to Tobago. And we have to encourage criticism. We have to encourage dissent, positive dissent. We must disagree. But because I disagree with you doesn't mean that I dislike you. All right? So that, so I think that what has not been done is where all these wonderful things that were completed over the last fiscal year has not been well or fully communicated. I think they have to have a scorched earth communication strategy, because I myself did not know of some of these many things that I heard, and I am seeing, looking in front of me on my computer here, what has been done. And if you can't communicate your achievements and accomplishment, you're going to lose. So they have to, in my opinion, embark on what I call winning the messaging. So if they're not going to message to the people, they have to go throughout every community and explain to the population what they have done, not only through AI or digitization, because a lot of us don't read and don't have computers and kind of phones that we can log on to the systems that they plan to do, which is also good, right? But there are a lot of elderly people who don't know. There are a lot of middle-aged people who don't know. And there are certain things even I myself did not know, right? So if persons that even like me did not know, it means your messaging has failed. So I think what they need to do is to really embark on that scorched earth messaging program, so that people will know what your assembly is. So if you were talking about adopting my assembly, then you have to let me know. So they have to, as I said, and my term is winning the messaging, because of course the opposition has embarked on their own type of messaging. So we have competing messages, and they have to ensure that they signal or explain or inform, communicate with the population. My assembly, okay, yes, my assembly, but I don't know. And therefore, I think that it is important for the next year and a half, if they wish to return to office, to adequately saturate the population with what they have done. I think that they have dropped the ball where that is concerned. I'd love to see that happen. The other thing is the 5%. It is a fair, I agree, because since I was there, it was 4.03%. The population has grown, and so forth, and it's an accurate representation of what should be the minimum budgetary allocation for Tobago. I think that the chief secretary and his team will have to find some way to really successfully trigger the dispute resolution commission mechanism. I think that it has to happen. It's a bit too late, right? But I thought that he should be more aggressive, even 2 budgets ago. But of course, it's not that he has not seen it. He's saying, look, I understand it, but I think he has to really aggressively deal with that dispute resolution minimum share of the budget issue, and it has to be done now. I don't think that they have played the politics well in respect of that. So I'm hoping that he will succeed in that, so that Tobago will see a better share of the budget. Now, for me, I've always said that I don't want to be put as a share, because Trinidad doesn't have a share. They take all, and whatever that whole is, they give you a percentage of that. We have our our God-given hydrocarbons out in the ocean. Let us monetize that. All of it should really belong to Tobago. The hydrocarbons in Trinidad, all of it belongs to Trinidad. But they wouldn't say Trinidad, they'll say Trinidad and Tobago, but it's really Trinidad. And at the end of the day, they give you what they feel they should give you, even though the budget allows for a high of 6.9. So that legislatively, I'm not in agreement at all with 8%. That stratagem does not tell me that you understand self-determination or what is self-determination be. You can't put self-determination as a percentage. I don't care what the economists say, that belongs to us. And therefore, let us monetize it. Let us come up with some kind of legislative arrangement that says and recognizes that those things belong to us, so that we could deal with those things how we want and then give some to the national arrangement. But you can't tell me about 8%. I'm not in agreement with that at all. For the time being, I totally agree with the 5.5 or 5.8 that you're asking for, because of course Tobago has grown. I never liked the formula, but that is what it is. But I'm in agreement total with that aspect of it, because we need the funding so that Tobago can grow and we can live in a wealthier society that affords us all the things that we've been aspiring for over the years.
You know, every single administration and every time a budget is presented, we have the same discussion about the share that you just mentioned. And it has been a challenge, budget after budget after budget, a discussion. And we're talking now about changing the legislation or updating it or bringing it to a place where we can get more, so that we can do the things we need to do, as you mentioned, so we can live a better life. We can be more, more revenue, more opportunities, if we get a larger portion. But legislation takes some time. And I'm here now, I'm sitting and I'm listening to you. What we can have the conversation, but what is the thing that will trigger the aggressive conversation? The conversation that is non-ending, is almost like a bug, like you're nagging somebody to get what is rightfully yours. How do we go about ensuring that, listen, come next budget or come next 2 budgets down the road, there's some kind of dent, some kind of change, some kind of upgrade to the legislation that would allow and afford us to get what it is we really want or deserve in this space?
Remember, we had 16 years of Orville London. We had another period after Orville London, and now we have the T.P.P. The T.P.P., as I indicated, has now found its legislative feet, apparently. The ideas that will propel us is now showing that they will understand the socio-economic issues that will position us to be a better Tobago, greater city island, and so forth, unlocking Tobago's development potential. And this is what this budget does. The strategic selectivity is the tool that they're going to use to ensure that they make the right decisions in respect of our progress and our development. Okay? Now, having said that, I really would admit that they have not been aggressive enough, in my opinion, because I tend to be very aggressive. Where I come from in the trade union movement, we take no prisoners, so to speak. And I think that the Chief Secretary has been very incremental. I don't think that the team has been very aggressive. I would like them to be. All right. However, I think they have arrived at a point where they understand the picture. And I think they're going to progress from here on in. I really do believe so. I'm seeing the signs, I'm seeing the indications. But you can't tell me that you're going to cast blame on a baby administration having inherited 16 years of Orville London and the PNM.
I don't think it's about casting blame. We're at the position now where we want to get it done, and we're trying to figure out, as we're talking about strategies and all these things.
Yeah, but I indicated that they've arrived at the point. I think they have arrived. I mean, no doubt they've arrived.
So now it's to implement an aggressive strategy.
Well,
because as you said, they have not been aggressive enough.
Enough.
Right? And so now, what is the strategy to become more aggressive and to get this thing done?
Well, because they have to play the politics. I think that the party will be fully formed out, if you wish, by Sunday. where you're going to have deputy political leaders appointed. For the first time, Tobago will have a party indigenous to Tobago. PNM is not indigenous to Tobago. So you have first indigenous party with homegrown politicians, homegrown ideas, and so forth. And I think they are now they begin to run based on the ideas that I've seen presented here. The groundwork has been done, and I think it's time. And I think it's time for. I think it's begin to yield the kind of results. So the party is in place. Let's say the party is in place. The chief secretary is now the political leader of the party. So that is not an issue any longer. And all the other officials will be in place. I think they can wholly take up the bed and walk now. And I'm confident that it will be done. That's my view.
All right, so that's a good place to end this segment of our conversation. And we come back again. We continue in conversations this morning with Mr. Max James. And as he alluded there to the internal elections of the T.P.P, we're going to have conversations where that is concerned. When we come back from the short break, we have to go for a quick break. And as we go, of course, we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
Good morning, morning. Good morning, morning.
Welcome back to the morning television. We're now at 7:53 a.m. So if you're getting to work for 8 a.m. and taking the children to school, you literally have 7 minutes. Do not rush. Remember to get there safely. Safety is our motive this morning. We continue conversations this morning in studio. We speak with Mr. Max James, former assemblyman, and now we switch topics a little, switch gears a little bit as we speak about the T.P.P, Tobago People's Party internal elections due to take place on Sunday, 30th June. And we ended the first segment talking about deputy political leader and the positions that are going to be filled therein. So, Mr. James, tell me, based on the candidates that are forward, that have been put forward to fill positions within the party, what are your views, one, of the positions that have been highlighted? Tell me what constitutes the positions for a political party, being a politician yourself, and also the positions that are being held. Do you see the human resources being deployed in a way that you think will be impactful for the party?
Well, you asked me a question that is kind of difficult to answer. But what I would say, obviously, the T.P.P is possessed of excellent human resources that can be deployed almost anywhere in the world in terms of the sheer brilliance and understanding of management and of politics and the like. So I think the party has the competence or the competencies within the human resource competence and the human resource competencies that are possessed you can find in the individuals who put themselves up for the positions on Sunday. So that I am not particularly worried. And of course, more directly to your question, is that it's a democratic process. And therefore, everyone is free to offer themselves. And I applaud all of those persons who have put themselves forward for a particular position on Sunday.
You know, we had a conversation, you and I, on this very same morning show where we spoke about the reshuffling, as we call it, of the assembly, the administration. And now we're talking about executive positions in the party.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
And now we're talking about executive positions within the party itself. And we spoke to competencies of persons in different offices.
Yes.
And you mentioned that they don't necessarily have to have a degree or you know, whatever qualifications per se to hold an office, but rather experience or passion as the case might be. Do you feel the same way for this particular elections, where it's the executive arm of it, where they have to now drive their own people. Because remember, in public office, you're working for the public. This is internal elections where they are now managing the affairs of the party to ensure that the party is performing in the way it should perform, that it would attract new members, and whatever their objectives are, these persons are now positioned in this place to do that, to uphold the party rather. They are now the hub, they are now the energy, the pulse of the party. So how do you see that working?
Well, obviously, excellently. I don't want to see anything, even though, because my brother was one of the participants in the in terms of a position on the executive on Sunday.
So we know who you're voting for.
Well, obviously, but I don't want to say anything, in fairness to the others. I don't want to be seen to be campaigning in the program. But of course, I love my brother.
As you should.
Yes. And I've always known him to do things very fast. And I think that since you've pushed me in that direction, I would want all the other contestants, so to speak, to forgive me. But I can only, because again, as I said, I love my brother. I know he possesses the competencies, and it is evident. Even yesterday when I passed down in the Chauvin era, I almost thought the roundabout was finished, because judging from the experience of the other projects, he does things in quick time. So that since you asked me, and I'd hope that you did not ask me, I think he's eminently suited for the position that he's going up for, without prejudice, emphasis without prejudice to any other candidate. All right. But I think throughput, I think the people who have put themselves up, one way, either which one ever that comes out, I think that, Tobago will be in good hands. The executive of the party will be in good hands. I think all of them are good candidates, all right? It might perhaps boil down to preferences, all right? In terms of the energy that you alluded to, of course, I think we can find the energy. You just have to look and see, and you will know who has the energy to take up the affairs of the party after Sunday.
You know, I always wish that we have more time when I'm having conversations with you, because there's so much I want to draw from you. But it's now 7:59 a.m. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking with Mr. Max James, former Assemblyman. We spoke about the T.H.A. budget presented in the House on Monday, and also a little bit about the T.P.P. internal elections due to take place this Sunday. But this is where we have to end the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. But this is not where we end our programming. We continue on with Tobago Notes and then on to GMT. So stay with us. And as you stay with us, we ask you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live.